This is GIJoe 30th anniversary, or 30 years. GIJoe Renegades Snake Eyes. The figure is part of the second wave of the 30th anniversary GIJoe toy line from Hasbro, and is part of the first set of figures released from the show GIJoe Renegades. Sadly, the show had been canceled. I was a big fan of the show. Had its we'll talk about the show after the review, but let's focus on the figure first. So, very, very cool looking figure. I'm a big fan of Snake Eyes, as many of you already know. Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, I don't care how many repaints they have. I like them. Never really got around to getting the 25th anniversary figures. Just really grew tired of the 80s based the figures were based from the 80s figures. I did start collecting G.I. Joe figures when the movie came out, Rise of Cobra. Started getting a lot of the Pursuit of Cobra figures, kept them mint, and now here is a sample of the 30th anniversary figures. But I'm trying to limit myself to just Renegades, trying not to get the other 30th anniversary figures. I did get Stalker, but that was it. Trying to limit myself to Renegades. So there. Okay. Very, very cool figure. Here is the packaging. Here's a good picture of how he appeared in the show. Ninja Commando. Pretty cool. He's got his bio, his file card, as well as the rest of the assortment for waves 1 and 2. Alright, pretty cool. This is the case of the figure looking a lot better than the actual character on the show. The character on the show had a lot of anime-ish exaggerated parts about him. As you can see, he was very skinny in some parts, and he had an oversized uniform, pair of pants and whatnot. Very skinny limbs, but this Snake Eyes right here, he could pass for a Snake Eyes from the regular line, not necessarily just from the Renegades line. Just for fun. Sorry, I'll get to the figure in a while. Here's a look at the rest of the G.I. Joe Renegades figures. First batch of Renegades figures, as you can see. Firefly, Duke, and Cobra Commander. No plans of reviewing them, though. Just thought, it'd be kind of cool, but anyway. No plans of reviewing them right now. Just keeping them mint right now. I don't really see the point in doing so. Maybe if I get doubles, I might. So, that's that. And lastly, just for fun, here is the movie Snake Eyes. So, alright, let's bring back his packaging so that the light doesn't go awry once again. Okay. 3 minutes into the video and he still hasn't discussed the figure. My bad. Alright, getting to it right now. Right about now. Okay. It is a cool figure. He's got all the articulation of a regular G.I. Joe figure, plus a bit more, which I'm not really a big fan of. I'll talk about it now. I just bent this one out of shape. Okay. So, let's put down the accessories. He's got oh crap. Okay. It's got a ball jointed neck, but just allows you to swivel the neck left and right 360. It doesn't excuse me, this lamp is in the way of my hands. It doesn't really allow you to move the head up and down. As you can see, it is a ball joint, but just swivels. So anyway, it's got a ball jointed upper torso. It's got ball hinge shoulders, ball hinge elbows, and ball hinge wrists. Can you believe it? And this is really it's an additional articulation, so I'm not complaining too much, but it just makes his hands look funny. This one's not so bad, actually, but this one, It's like he broke a joint or something. Could have used a lot more finesse on the design, but yeah, this is what they used for the Clone Troopers hands. One goes up and down, the other one goes left and right if you're a Clone Wars fan. Anyway, no waist articulation. He's got a ball jointed hip, just like the regular G.I. Joes, double hinge knees, ball hinge ankle. So very, very cool articulation. You can get him into a lot of poses. He comes with a ton of accessories. He's first the blaster pistol they got from Cobra, I think. He's got two katanas, one short and one long, as I guess a standard issue for a ninja. No Arashikage logo on the swords. He does have the Arashikage on his uniform right there, on his shoulder. And these two, they sort of fit here on the back. He's got a pouch with some holes in it, which is kind of weird. It's not removable. It's like glued on to this belt. The belt is, well, you can move it around if you want, but it's just glued. It's a piece that's been glued there, and I wouldn't move this one too much if I were you, because it'd be a pain to put it back in. So anyway, they fit the swords, just like with the old 80s G.I. Joe figures. The backpacks or the packs would act as holsters. I'm not a big fan of that. This one in particular, I wish they would have made it a full scabbard. It just gets in the way of his arms, and to a certain extent, it does get in the way of holstering the when the pistol is holstered. As you can see, it fits right in there, and it sort of slices in between the handle of the pistol. So that kind of sucks. Or let me see if I can just. Oh, there's no easy way to do this. Oh, here we go. Alright, so it just gets in the way. He also comes with a backpack that's removable, and it holds two of his ninja daggers, I suppose. I forgot what these are called. But anyway, it's a neat little touch, although I'm not a big fan of it. It just falls off. It's not as securely in there. He also has a web belt or a backpack strap that you can remove if you remove both arms or whatnot, but I'm not going to do it. Excuse me. So yeah, backpack fits well. They sort of stay in place, but this one's pretty loose. Not a big fan of this. I wish these things had pegs, just like lightsabers. They just pegged into his thighs or something like that. But yeah, none of the weapons are painted, which is a shame. I wanted to sort of spray paint or use a silver marker on the blades of the swords, much like this one. This one came painted. That's why I don't understand why Hasbro couldn't have painted those swords. I guess they spent already too much silver on the knee pads and the visor. I don't know, but I wish they could have done. I would have done it, but seeing as it's a very tight fit onto the sheath or the pouch that acts like a scabbard, all that paint is just going to get scraped away, so I didn't bother doing it. So that's that. Very, very cool figure. If you're a big fan of the show, if you're a big fan of Snake Eyes, you've got to get this figure. This guy can fit in the other lines. I think he does. You don't have to have a separate Renegade shelf, but it'd be cool if you did. But I think he will most likely nicely fit in with a regular Snake Eyes, a non-Renegades Snake Eyes. So that's pretty cool. All right. And just a little bit on the show. That's the end of this review. This is GIJoe 30th anniversary, GIJoe Renegades Snake Eyes. If you want to know my latest toy purchases and upcoming reviews, please follow me on Twitter at www.twitter.com/fxfranz. Show's been canceled. That's the end of the review. You can go ahead and watch another review. But if you want to know a little bit of a commentary on the show, stick around. The show sort of ended because it was a nice show. It was not something that I was really excited to watch every episode. As soon as I downloaded an episode, I wasn't gaga over it. I gotta watch it right away. I put it away. I had procrastinated watching the shows. I haven't actually even finished the whole series. A couple more episodes to watch that I've downloaded. It's I think the show made the same mistakes as the Transformers animated show, and that is they presented a bunch of heroes that aren't really heroes. They're sort of how do I describe it? They're sort of heroes in the making. They're trying to be heroes. That Transformers animated begins with a bunch of rejects. Well, quotation marks, rejects. Optimus Prime was kicked out of the academy. Two technicians, space bridge worker, and whatnot. I mean, and they get sent to Earth, and they didn't really know what they were supposed to do. They were trying to be heroes, and it was very hard to support a team like that. And Optimus Prime wasn't even the big boss. I mean, there was Ultra Magnus. Can you believe it? Ultra Magnus higher than Optimus Prime. That really ruined the whole G1 thing. And I can understand what they were trying to do with Transformers animated. They were trying to spin off the cartoon, the show, the characters into something else. But you don't do that. You don't crucify. You don't alienate some of the original fans by crucifying the characters and just bastardizing the whole essence of the Transformers. So Hasbro decided to reboot their animation, the Transformers animation, and turn it into Transformers Prime, which is sort of not. It's sort of like an offshoot, a spin-off of the movie. It's something that would happen if they made the movie into animation. Nothing to do with the movie verse, but the way the characters were designed were sort of based on the movie and a little bit on G1, and they kept true to the essence of G1 and Optimus Prime being the head fighting Megatron. And right from the beginning, you get to see these Transformers as heroes. And it was so easy to root for them because they weren't really, they had no identity crisis, and they were sure of themselves, and they knew they had to defend the Earth from the Decepticons. Very simple plot. It's a sort of an actual reboot of what happened in the 80s, and they decided to add a few more things. The problem with GIJoe Renegades is, as from the title itself, Renegades. These are a group that was framed up, and they're always hiding from the law. And Flint is the guy chasing after them. He's become like the comic relief of the show, and that you don't do that. Flint was one of the. Well, come to think of it, he's supposed to be higher than Duke, really. But in the old show, he was Duke's second in command. Now he became third in command because Hawk was really the first in command. But in the original 80s, G.I. Joes were heroes from the get-go. They were the elite strike force team that was asked to save the world when Cobra attacked. And it was very simple. Cobra wants world domination. G.I. Joe saves the day. It was very simple, very easy to support heroes or local homegrown heroes. What Renegades did was they sort of turned G.I. Joe into the A-team. They were running away from the law, and they, at the same time, anywhere they went, they were solving parochial issues in the towns and whatnot. And somehow Hasbro decided to sort of come up and squeeze in or insert some of the would-be origins of how they met the other G.I. Joe characters from the old 80s show, like how they met Shipwreck, Dial Tone, Zartan. Oh man, that Zartan, the Dreadnoks Rising, I did not enjoy that. It was fun in some parts, but the whole essence of the Dreadnoks and Zartan being just riders, bikers, never really, I just didn't buy it. And his ability to change came from a suit. They were trying to justify or trying to make a realistic explanation of how the characters were, and that just didn't work. And again, as I said, it was very difficult to support a group made of a bunch of soldiers that are always running from the law. and they would fight the good fights, and yet at the same time at the end of the show they'd always be running away. You don't want that. You could give that to a more mature audience, but if your target market or target audience are kids, kids want heroes, and they want them from the get-go, that every time the crowd sees them, they're not renegades, they're not just ordinary Joes, they're super Joes. They're like more than your ordinary Joes. That's what the GI Joe essence was all about. And I'm rambling. And again, that's part of the reason I think why the show failed. And if anybody from Hasbro or the Hub is watching, please reboot GI Joe Renegades and turn it into something like GI Joe Heroes. You don't have to say it as a real American hero if you don't want to. You can just show it as GI Joe Heroes, or I don't know, something like that, or GI Joe Strike Force, or Action Force, or GI Joe Squad, GI Joe Elite Force, something like that. But from the get-go, make them heroes. And I think they should learn from how Transformers Prime came about, and how they resurrected the cartoon from Transformers Animated, from what happened to Transformers Animated. There was a lot of fans for Transformers Animated, but again, they alienated a lot of the old fans, and they redeemed themselves with Transformers Prime, and I'm kind of hoping in the future they would, well, sort of redeem themselves if they reboot the G.I. Joe cartoon. So anyway, that's my sort of commentary on why the show failed. I'm not an expert on anything. There could have been a lot of other factors, maybe because show was a lot of violence in it. There was a lot of drama in it, and kids really couldn't associate it with it. But all in all, it was a good effort, and I commend the Hub, Hasbro, Discovery Channel team for doing a great first effort on it. Sadly, it just didn't pay off, and I do hope they come back and reboot it as something like that, G.I. Joe Heroes or whatnot. But there you go, folks. Thanks for watching.